Early September 2011, Wenjiang, Chengdu. Xiao Yue had just started at a small vocational school on the outskirts of town. The girls' dormitory building stood alone, greyish-white plaster peeling, 5 floors total, its corridor long and dark as a tunnel. The air smelled of disinfectant, old wood, and damp mildew. On the first day, the dorm supervisor introduced everything: cafeteria, classrooms, baths, but conspicuously omitted the 5th floor. Xiao Yue fell behind the group and found herself climbing up, as if pulled by an invisible rope. The 5th floor was different, completely dark, the windows caked with grime, the floor covered in years of greyish-white dust. Scattered everywhere were remnants of abandoned life: cracked wash basins, rusty hangers, toppled chairs, old slippers, as if everyone had fled and never returned. Then she saw it. From the depths of that pitch-black corridor, something white and mist-like emerged. It drifted with its own will, not swept by wind. The air was completely still. It glided past the debris and stopped at room 501, the only door tightly shut with an iron padlock. The lock had no dust on it. The white mist passed through the solid wooden door, like water soaking into a sponge. Xiao Yue screamed and fled. The dorm supervisor's face twisted into terror, not surprise. She declared, "Nobody is allowed on the 5th floor. Serious cases face disciplinary action." Barely half a month later, the second incident occurred. On a Friday night, Xiao Yue and 3 roommates returned late after sneaking off campus. The whole building was unnaturally silent. No turning in beds, no water pipes gurgling, no insects chirping. Even their footsteps sounded muffled. The world seemed on mute. On the 2nd floor, Xiao Yue and her bunkmate Dongmei both developed tinnitus simultaneously, a sharp, high-frequency sound originating from inside their skulls. Then the girl at the front whipped around. "Run! Whoever's at the back will be caught by the ghost." All 4 bolted. Xiao Yue sprinted up to room 401, but Dongmei, who had been a dozen meters behind, was already sitting on the bed, at the exact same instant. "When did you get back?" Xiao Yue demanded. Dongmei didn't respond. She sat frozen, staring at the floor, her face expressionless as a wax figure. After being shaken repeatedly, Dongmei's eyes slowly shifted sideways, only her eyeballs moving, the rest of her body completely still. In a low, dry, sand-in-throat voice, she said, "What are you all doing here?" It wasn't Dongmei's voice. It sounded like something speaking through her throat. "I was behind you." Eyes closed, then opened, and I was already on the bed. Closed, then opened, at most a second. Yet she traversed dozens of meters of stairs and corridor with no memory of it. A week later, another incident. Late at night, Xiao Yue and 2 roommates were smoking on the 4th floor balcony. They saw a figure walking down from the 5th floor, a girl with impossibly long hair covering her face. Her footsteps were slow and unnatural, like someone unsure how to use their legs. Under moonlight, her chin was white as lifeless plaster. They recognized her, a quiet classmate. "What are you doing? How did you get to the 5th floor?" No response. The girl stood motionless, her eyes dead, not daydreaming, but truly vacant. Then suddenly her eyes snapped toward them with unnatural speed, in exactly the same low, dry voice. "What are you doing?" When pressed, she looked confused. "What 5th floor? Didn't I just wash my face and come back to the dorm?" She had no memory of going up. The path from the washroom to the 5th floor was a complete blank in her mind. That night, no one could sleep alone. Dongmei and Xiao Yue squeezed into one bed. Around 2 or 3 in the morning, Xiao Yue felt someone rhythmically tugging her blanket. Gentle, testing. Half asleep, she yelled, "Stop pulling!" The tugging stopped. Then, just as she was about to drift back into deep sleep, whoosh! The blanket was violently ripped off with tremendous force, flying off the bed. Xiao Yue shot up. Dongmei was fast asleep, breathing evenly, hands resting quietly. The hand that ripped the blanket wasn't hers, and Xiao Yue slept against the wall. To pull the blanket from that angle, the force had to come from the empty space outside the bed. For months after, things were relatively normal. Xiao Yue convinced herself it was wind, sleepwalking, imagination. Then came the phone call. Sunday afternoon, 4 p.m., caller ID, Dongmei. Dongmei's voice was trembling, tearful. She'd forgotten her house key, her family was away. She was stranded alone in the empty dorm. Xiao Yue, please come back and stay with me for just one night. I'm so scared. Xiao Yue caught the last bus from Chengdu. The whole journey, a drug-like drowsiness overwhelmed her. Her brain wrapped in cotton, eyelids heavy as lead. She pinched herself, useless. Past 9, she arrived at the school gate and called Dongmei. Hey, I'm here. Can you come down and help with my bags? Silence. Then Dongmei's voice, flat, unnaturally casual, completely unlike the crying voice from hours earlier. Oh, I already went home. My sister came to pick me up. Sorry, didn't have time to tell you. The last bus was gone. Xiao Yue was trapped. She trudged up the empty stairwell, locked her dorm room, wedged a chair behind the door. Then, like being struck with a club, she plunged into an impossibly deep sleep. In the middle of the night, an icy gust of wind blew across her face, from inside the room, carrying a metallic rust-like smell. She snapped her eyes open. From the direction of the door came a voice. Ji, older brother, perfectly standard Mandarin, not Sichuan dialect. Flat, emotionless. It didn't travel through air. It resonated directly inside her skull, as if her head had become a speaker. Xiao Yue was paralyzed with terror. The thing seemed to realize she was awake, without her moving or making a sound. It drifted toward her, bringing an expanding zone of bone-chilling cold. The cold crept up her body, toes, ankles, calves, knees, thighs, abdomen, chest, neck, lips. Then it stopped directly above her face. Gee. Right above her, 20 or 30 centimeters away. Xiao Yue felt her soul trying to burst out of her body, a real physiological sensation of her consciousness floating upward. She forced herself to pretend to roll over, turning toward the wall with excruciating slowness. With every centimeter, the cold mass adjusted to match. It was observing her, reading her breathing. Her eyelid flutters. Finally, it withdrew to the door. Then came sounds, rustling like crustaceans on dry ground, rapid fragmented whispers in unintelligible languages, sharp staccato laughter like metal scraping glass. The sounds continued for what felt like an hour. Xiao Yue lunged upward and yanked the blanket over her head. The sounds stopped, as if the thing didn't want her to see it. When dawn finally came, she ran. She sat on a ping-pong table in the sun and called Dongmei, ready to curse her out. Dongmei's voice was relaxed, languid. I didn't ask you to come over. I was home all day yesterday. I left Friday noon. My mom came to pick me up. Were you dreaming? Xiao Yue checked her phone. The call log clearly showed the call, but Dongmei's phone had no outgoing calls to Xiao Yue at all. If Dongmei was telling the truth, then who called her? Who had cried and begged her to return? This was planned, purposeful. That thing had specifically lured her to the empty building. Later, an upperclassman revealed the history. Around 2004 or 2005, a girl in room 501 jumped out the window. Relationship issues. She was from another province. It was National Day holiday. Her body lay undiscovered for 3 or 4 days. The smell of decomposition seeped into the walls, the floorboards. Afterward, the whole 5th floor became haunted. Girls heard crying and muttering from room 501 at night. Then, another girl in room 504 died inexplicably in her bed. No cause of death found. Perfectly healthy, went to sleep, never woke up. The school moved everyone off the 5th floor that very night and sealed it with an iron padlock. Key kept in the principal's safe. All the clues connected. The attraction to the 5th floor, the white mist entering room 501, the voice calling gay, The possession of Dongmei, the ripped blanket, the phone call that wasn't from Dongmei. The ghost of that girl was still trapped on the sealed floor, repeatedly calling the J in her memory, mimicking voices, making phone calls, possessing others. She wasn't trying to harm. She was searching for someone who could respond. But for those she found, it was pure terror. Xiao Yue's life spiraled. She was expelled. Unsuitable to continue studying. Jobs never lasted. She felt cursed. Suicidal thoughts crept in. A fortune teller at Qingcheng Mountain studied her. You've picked up heavy yin energy. You will face a blood calamity. Then her healthy 80-year-old grandmother died suddenly. Heart attack. Xiao Yue believes her grandmother took those bad things in her place. Xiao Yue herself later developed intestinal polyps, extremely rare for her age. She realized, from the moment she was bewitched into stepping onto the 5th floor, her life had gone down a one-way road to ruin. I really didn't used to believe, Xiao Yue later said. I found reasonable explanations for everything. Dust, dreams,